right now is a steak dinner. There are 200 people down there, including the President of the United States.
Did anything unusual happen? Other than my boss dying? Other than that, yes.
That's Cordelia Cupp.
She is the best detective in the world.
Where's the body? Oh, I see feet. Mr. President, this house needs to be treated like a crime scene. There may be a murderer out there. Who's he?
Edwin Park, Special Agent, FBI. I'm really just here to help.
Can you hit one? That would help.
How do you want to do this?
I need to talk to everyone. Did you see Mr. Winter this evening?
I ran into him. He said, I am going to be dead by the end of the night.
I mean, it's just something people say.
I've never said that. Has anyone here ever said I'm going to be dead by the end of the night?
Yeah, the one time I went camping, I said that.
Tell me about AB Winter.
A lot of people in this house had issues with AB.
He could be very uncompromising.
No.
We were always super cool.
He was like a father to me.
I had no issues with A.B. Winter.
That's the truth.
Not even close.
Not even close to being close.
Close is over here, and close to being close is over here.
I got it. If you want to understand the White House residents, you have to understand this. We are the house. All these other people, they are not. It's us versus them.
We need to tread carefully here. This is the White House.
Agent Park told me you have a suspect. You told me you had a suspect.
Yes.
No. I'm trying to solve a murder, and I've got the FBI, the President of the United States, and Kylie Minogue breathing down my neck.
You've made this very dramatic.
Thank you.
Murder mysteries are so popular right now.
Boom, there you go. That was a trailer for The Residents, with all episodes available right now on Netflix. Go binge it like I did. It's so good, and I'm so immensely excited right now to talk to one of my favorite actors, character actors, if you will. Mel, I fell in love with you on Last Man on Earth. You were everybody's favorite teddy bear on there. And then since then, I've seen you in other projects, and I started putting two and two together from Last Man on Earth. I was like, I know this guy from this and this and this. You've been gainfully employed, which is wonderful. I'm sure you know, as an actor in Hollywood. Yeah. And it's a pleasure to chat with you, and congratulations on The Residents.
Oh man, it's my pleasure to be here, and thank you. And you mentioned character actor. I feel like I'm super blessed. I never wanted to be the center of attention. You know what I mean? And I feel like what we get to do as supporting actors is we get to really support the lead and the story. And for some, they're just so much more interesting characters that I get to play, which I love.
I completely agree. As an actor myself, I'm still fighting to become a character actor. I've been typecast. I'm always like the heavy, the thug, or whatever. But I think characters actors was made me fall in love with this craft that we do.
Oh yeah.
I just want to be gainfully employed. I don't need to be the star. I just want to work and just live in these roles. And you are one of the best. I have to tell you, man.
Oh man, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. It's what I love to do, man. You know what I mean? It's funny you mentioned being the bad guy. I grew up with a guy, we both started out together, my friend Maurice Comte, and we both started acting around the same time. And he would always play the bad guys, and I would always get typecast as the cops. You know what I mean? Like the heavy, the sergeant, the this, or cop, you know what I mean? And it took me years to get out of the cop, you know what I mean? Pigeonhole. And we talked about just being working, the business is interesting right now. And I just really feel, I'm just so grateful. I'm very blessed. I know people talk about being blessed all the time. I feel very blessed to be working right now and to have, just to be gainfully employed and to be doing what I love to do, man. I'm a lucky dude.
Love it. And you deserve it. I want to, if you don't mind, if we can dive into a little bit of the past before we speak on the Residents. We'll definitely give Residents its whole time.
Okay.
But I was doing homework, obviously,
Okay.
and like you said, I saw that you were typecast, and obviously, like I said, I've known you from so many different roles, and you have played a cop quite a bit. It depends
Yes.
on me if I'm either the thug, like I said, or if I'm a cop when I don't. With
That's
the
right.
haircut. It's the haircut. When I have hair and I don't have this, I'm a cop. When I'm
Right.
this, I'm the thug. So
I got it, dude. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so you've done that, and you've been able to work with that and build a career, and well deservingly so. But if I could start back, actually, I saw that you were into boxing, and that didn't surprise me when I know I think you're Cuban American, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And Spanish, into the fight game, into boxing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How you evolved from boxing and then getting into acting with, and I really want to touch on this because I'm a big fan. And rest in peace to Pedro Zamora when you started getting into plays at 17. Can we talk on boxing, on how that kind of started off, which I'm sure being a Latin American.
So boxing first. I love boxing. My dad was really into boxing. And there were times where I grew up, I was around it was a tough neighborhood. It was the 80s and the 90s in Miami, Little Havana section of Miami. And it's not the same as it looks now. That is it's a tourist attraction now. It was not a tourist attraction back in the day. And so there was this park, Shenandoah Park, where I'd go and I didn't know what else to get into. I definitely need to learn how to fight because, we'd fight all the time and I wanted to get good at it so I'd win. And I started taking up boxing. And I feel like boxing is a lot like acting because you really have to pay attention to things. You have to be present. You know what I mean? You've got to respond. Everything is a counter, And that's kind of what I loved about boxing. But then, I did a few amateur bouts and I got punched in the face really hard one time. And another time, honestly, the worst punch I ever got was like in the liver. And it was the worst fucking thing. Can I curse? Excuse me. You can.
Yeah, feel free.
It was the absolute worst pain. And it's just like your soul leaves your body.
Yeah.
And I realized, this is not what I want to do for a living, And so I was talking to somebody recently, and like I had moved from the time I was like a kid till high school. Me and my dad had moved like 21 times. So I was constantly like reinventing myself. I'd go to this school and I had to become that, or, to be accepted and to be liked. And I would constantly just reinvent myself. And I feel like that kind of lent to.
Definitely.
And growing up in a rough neighborhood, you've got to bluff yourself out of situations sometimes. You got to maybe act tougher than you actually are. You got to maybe there are times where you're just constantly on guard and you're constantly responding to, you're in a survival mode. And so, and your nervous system is completely unregulated and, all that stuff. And you've got to, as you get older, you've got to kind of contend with some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But, I think what happened was I was at Miami High, and when I was there, I was kind of at the last point. One of the roles I was playing was kind of this kind of like thuggy dude, and I knew it wasn't me, and so I was starting to go down this wrong path, and I was worried because a lot of my friends were going to jail, and some guys were ending up dead and stuff like that. And I was here and I was just at a loss. I didn't know what else to do. I think it was my 11th, it was in 11th grade. And I remember it was after school and I was doing this study hall class. I'd taken study hall because, you don't have to do anything in study hall. And so I was there and I was talking to this girl who was kind of cute. And afterwards she was like, look, there's this improv thing after school. You should come. I was like, oh, dope. You're cute. Let's do it, So after school, I went and, I'd been playing that role and I went up on the stage, and I said, they asked, do you want to come up? And I said, yeah. And I came up and I lit up a cigarette, and I was like, yeah, I've been in juvie and blah, 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 you know what I mean? And this and this and that. And I went through this whole thing, And when I was done, it was one of those moments, where you really knew something had happened and the air kind of gets sucked out of the room and everybody was silent and still. And something about the space I felt safe in, and I just didn't feel safe in my life, And I remember there was this moment where this person raised their hand and they said, oh my God, was that real? And I took a moment and I thought, here's a chance for you, man. This is a real crossroads in your life. Like you can stay on this path and say, yeah, that's me, and just be a thug. You know what I mean? Or you can say no and be something else. And I just sat and I said, no, And I remember the teacher looking at Miss Marty Hancock. She's the best, man. I think she saved my life in a lot of ways. And I remember her looking at me and kind of smiling. I think she kind of knew, And she took me under her wing and she asked me to be in this play called The Inner Circle. And it was about AIDS and AIDS awareness, And we tour around different schools and, jails, all kinds of stuff, because AIDS was really rampant back then, and HIV. And, it was a death sentence back in the day. And we hooked up with Pedro Zamora, who was, one of the original cast members on another Cuban, who was an original cast member on The Real World. And afterwards, Pedro would do this Q&A with people. This is how you can get it. This is how it's transmitted. No, you can't get it by kissing, but if you're eating Doritos, that sort of thing. And he was just such a wonderful guy, I mean, he was out in a time where it was very difficult to be out, and he was just a brave dude. He was just this brave, resilient soul. And being a part of that and being a part of that with him just felt like we had purpose, you know what I mean? And it transcended what we were, I don't know, when you're doing that thing, it just transcends words and stuff like that. And there's this connection you get with others. And I became super addicted to that. And I remember we did a show at the Dade County Detention Center. And there was this guy, Domingo, who I was, he was kind of my idol. And, we have weird idols in the hood. And, and he was, he was a dealer. And he was very flamboyant. And he used to drive around town in a Mercedes drop top with a fucking panther in the passenger seat with a huge gold chain.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want to be Domingo. And I shit you not, man, like I was there that day and Domingo was there. And he said, "Hey, Mel, what you doing?" And he was really choked up. I had affected him. This guy was completely stoic and never vulnerable. He was choked up. And he said, "Hey, Mel, he said, they said I did something and I'm going to go upstate for a long time, man." He said, "Let me tell you something. You got something, take that and get the hell out of here, man." And it just hit me right then. I was like, I'm gonna, and he was a mentor too in a lot of ways, because he kind of, he's in this moment where I was trying to figure things out. And that was it, man. I went to school. I went to SUNY Purchase, and then I started doing theater in New York, and and it was the beginning of it all, man. I feel very blessed, man, because I think for a guy like me, things could have gone a very different way, and it did for a lot of my friends. And I just, there's been all kinds of stuff. At some points, there's been survivor's remorse and stuff like that. Not to get too heavy, but you know what I mean. And it's not lost on me how cool my life is today.
Amazing, so beautiful. I have to tell you, Mel, thank you for sharing that. And because when I read that, I personally, with my own journey, connected with what I had read about you. And so for you to further expand right now, just I'm an empath too, I'm sure, as you are as an actor, man. Now. Yeah. As we got comfortable, because at that time, and I'm sure for yourself as men in that time, we bottle it up. We don't show our emotions.
Posture, no smiling.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I was in football while you were in boxing, and then when I wanted to get into the arts, you kind of had to do it on the sly, and they weren't really promoting it. And actually, that leads me to one of the other questions I had when you made that transition, and as you were saying, Domingo, you idolize him, but I'm sure, others were looking. How did it when you got into the arts and you were doing it for self, your parents, or just the people around you that you kind of kept this measure on? Did you keep it hidden? To me, I opened up, and then it was like, okay, we know that's love,
I feel like it softened me up a little bit. You know what I mean? I remember when I first started out at this school, Miami High, I had these people who were in all these things and stuff like that. And I remember rumors started, that I was gay, that, they saw me on, 8th Street, doing, pay for play. You know what I mean? All kinds of weird rumors started. And I just had to not take it personally and know, I was super in love with this thing. And I was a big guy too. And the coaches were like, "Dude, this is ridiculous. What are you doing? You need to play football, man." You know what I mean? And I don't know. I'm really grateful that I really kind of stuck up for myself in that way. And I didn't kind of pay attention to those voices. And I think the real cool thing was I had this buddy, George Morales, who, he, in and out recidivism, and the last time I spoke to him, he was doing 15 years, but he was, he was a real good dude. I loved him very much. And he stood up for me, he said, Mel's doing his thing, man, shut the hell up, and he stood up for me, and he was, and he was like, I bet you wish you would want to be, you could do this. And I think he was a very sympathetic guy and had to keep that kind of, tough exterior and, but I think all of us inside were just scared little boys. You know what I mean? And we trauma bonded and we did all this stuff. And it was just, it was what we had to do in that environment. And I think, and I know because, we'd have a few drinks or whatever as kids and we'd, talk about stuff. And eventually somebody ended up crying about their dad being in jail or their mom doing this or, we were all from kind of weird, broken families. And we, that's why we clicked.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that for you that you were able to get that support from everyone else because that's what I eventually got as well.
Yes, and now I'm their hero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I go back and I'm a hero, man. And I am so grateful for that. And I get messages all the time on Facebook and Instagram, and we're so proud of you. And yeah, man, it couldn't be a cooler thing. Yeah,
I'm with you. And I'm so happy and so relatable. Like that's been my journey. And when I read about that with you, I'm like, oh, I know this guy because I am this guy, and not as big as you yet. And you're killing it.
We get it. You know what I mean? And it's I think what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know what I mean? And I think what guys like us have is this real depth of emotion and experience, and we can bring it to everything we do.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it's not a curse. It's not a curse anymore. It becomes an asset.
Well said. Well said. So you're killing it. You graduate. You're in the game now. Again, I fell in love with you with Last Man on Earth.
Thank you.
You and Will Forte. Everybody. Kristen Wiig, I think. Not Kristen.
Kristen Shaw. Yes.
Shaw.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just an amazing cast. Just like Residents. Can we touch on Breaking Bad? Can we touch on just this journey you've had? And also I want to touch on being a Latin American and,
sure.
It's where it's not played to like that. You get to represent for the culture,
yes.
But also you're just uniquely yourself. You don't have to have the stereotypes within it. You're just
Thank you, man. Yes.
I love that.
I've always tried to do that. I mean, just to touch on that subject, I've really always tried to do that because I think in my belief at this point, Latinos are we're interwoven into the fabric of America. You know what I mean? And you look at guys like Pedro Pascal and Oscar Isaac and these guys who, they're just great actors. And we don't have to fall into stereotypes, you know what I mean? And we don't have to we don't have to do all that. And I think that, we can, if you're an American, you're able to play anything, you know what I mean? And I feel like here's the thing, man. People and life are going to pigeonhole you. You know what I mean? Why pigeonhole yourself?
Let's go.
I never wanted to do that to myself because I got thrown into a file immediately when I came out here. And so a lot of parts were this, and I got sent out only for that. You know what I mean? You're only the Latino this, or you're only the Latino that. And I really tried to kind of break away from that. And I get it. Look, in all frankness, I'm a little more fair than some of my brothers, you know what I mean? And so I was able to kind of do that thing. But I think more and more we're starting to do this thing where we are, we just are, man. We're part of this thing. You know what I mean? We are not, we're part of the entire conversation. And I don't think we need to do that to ourselves anymore,
Definitely. I love that. As a creative, I'm definitely for myself trying to create that in the industry behind the scenes because I think that's the best way we can get that,
for sure.
To happen. But also I love that that's happened for you and your strong work is proving it. And then they're casting you and you're getting all the work. And I love it for you, sir.
We're all Latinos, right? And so I think that without having to say it, you know what I mean? We all know. You know what I mean? We know when one of us is, is coming up, you know what I mean? And it's a win for all of us. So I'm just proud to I'm proud to represent my background, man. And, and just be, worker amongst workers, man. That's what I want to be.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Mel, The Residents.
Yes.
This amazing ensemble cast. Again, you've been a part of so many amazing ensembles. the journey is your journey throughout all these episodes, all available right now. Let me remind everybody. I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. It's on Netflix right now. Everybody, go check it out. My man Mel Rodriguez, he's talking to me right now. Go check it out. Bruce Gellar.
Yeah, Gellar. I think it's Gellar. Yeah, Gellar. Yeah,
the engineer who
the chief engineer.
One of the suspects, but then we learn later on. But I'm not going to spoil for the fans. What was it like playing this role? I think from what I saw another interview, you already knew, because sometimes with television, you don't know what's going on in the in the other episodes.
Yes.
But you knew up front where it was going to go. What was that like in building that chemistry and working with this amazing cast?
Elsie? That is true. I did run into Elsie Chile in the hall. I'd just come down from Tripp's room. She was standing outside the closet. She told me about the fight with Winter. She was very upset. She just kept shaking her head, looking down the hall and saying, I'm gonna kill him.
Going to kill him.
I'm gonna kill him.
That is true. I did say that, but I wasn't talking about Mr. Winter. I was talking about my husband, my ex-husband. I was going to kill him.
She didn't say that.
For calling Mr. Winter earlier in the day.
I got a call today, Elsie.
He's the one who did that. I knew he did it the minute I heard it. He wanted me to lose my job, wanted to destroy my life. I did want to kill him, but I didn't do that either. Bruce must have misunderstood.
I left her there after she said that. I didn't know what to do. She told me to leave.
Just leave me alone, okay?
So I went down to the west end of the hall by the elevator and, realized what she said was really fucked up and weird. So I went back. And when I turned out onto the hallway, I saw Elsie running out of the yellow oval room with a candlestick in her hand. And when I looked into the yellow oval room, Winter was dead.
Bruce left when I was still standing in front of the closet. I was there for, I don't know, a couple of minutes, trying to figure out what to do. I was so angry and upset. I got my supplies, and I was going to go into the Lincoln bedroom, but I realized that I had to try to talk to Mr. Winter again. So I went back to the yellow oval room, and that's when I saw him. Mr. Winter was dead.
Who do I think killed A.B. Winter?
Who do I think killed A.B. Winter?
Elsie Chile.
Bruce Gellar.
Oh man, first off, it was Shonda Rhimes, and everything she touches is amazing. You know what I mean? It's like, Bridgerton or, How to Get Away with Murder or Grey's Anatomy. She's a genius and her stuff, and she loves actors. And so does Paul William Davies, who's the director and the producer of this show. They just love actors. And I think the cool thing about it was, first of all, the script, which was amazing, because in the beginning you've got
such
all
great
these
writing.
different people. It was a huge cast. We had like 100 people in this cast, and so he has this kind of he had this really. It was such a feat in the pilot to be able to kind of introduce every character without flawlessly to some degree. Because you're traveling through the White House. The cool thing about this is it's the White House, but it's not the typical White House story we usually see, which is the West Wing, politicians, I'm kind of bored with that. And I think we all are. And this is like people who are service to the White House, the behind the scenes, the people we don't see very often, the working class. And so it was just so cool to be a part of this beautiful, this quilt, you know what I mean? When I talk about things being interwoven, and there was this quilt, all of us, regardless of background, race, or whatever, we were there to serve our country. You know what I mean? And there's something really altruistic about that and really awesome. And that really kind of inspired me about Bruce, who's kind of one of these, like all of them, they're these quiet heroes, and they're not in the papers and they're not, but they've been working there steadily for 20, 30, sometimes 40 years and doing the same thing. I was talking to somebody recently. I was like, there's a guy there that his only job is to wind all the clocks in the White House, because there are a lot of clocks in the White House. You know what I mean? But that's his job, and he's been doing it for 30 years. And he is excellent at what he does. You know what I mean? He is a master. And that is the thing about these people, is that they're constantly finding ways to kind of do better because they're of service to something that's bigger than them. And in this thing, we knew that going in. And I think all of the actors did. And so it felt like doing theater again, where it really is like a team effort, and there were no errors, and it was really cool. We'd all sit in a circle on set, and we really got to know each other and commune, and we were all wearing our wardrobe, and once something, when you put out that wardrobe, something happens, you become the thing.
Oh yeah.
That's why I love wardrobe, man. It's very magical that way. And so we would just talk and get to know each other, and then I think that translated onto screen, because you've just got, you've got Uzo Aduba, you've got Randall Park, you've got Isiah Whitlock, you've got Jason Lee, Giancarlo Esposito. It's just the actors, and to be a part of that was just, I was like, yeah, let's go. And I knew that I had to bring my A game going in, because you knew all these people were bringing their A game too,
Totally.
Yeah.
And just the writing so superb, and just the way it was shot. Just shout out to the entire team over at Netflix, and Shondaland, everybody, just brilliant. But keeping under wraps, but also subtly though showing it. From episode 1, we saw a little glance, right?
Yes. And it's funny that way, because it's like Clue or Knives Out and stuff like that. It's a murder that takes place at the White House. And then, over the course of one evening, and everyone becomes a suspect, And so there are these things situationally that are funny, really, really funny, but everything's played really real and grounded, because the circumstances are extreme and chaotic and crazy, and the humor comes from that. That's the kind of stuff I like at far comedy. You know what I mean?
I love it. And when I finally got to episode 7, I'm like, okay, this is, again, you're that lovable teddy bear that I loved in Last Man on Earth and some of your other roles. And then now I understood why they cast Mel Rodriguez for this role. Can we talk about, the ender, the 7 and 8, without spoiling, and just what it was like to be there, film that moment, and you're that guy for us now as fans. Again, as character actors, Mel.
Thank you, man. Everyone's a suspect in every episode. Not everyone, but there are kind of like 7 or 8 main suspects throughout the course of the show. It's 8 episodes long. And so, when you talked about, him kind of being, I felt like he was kind of the heart. This relationship was kind of the heart of it all, and I was super honored to play that. But I always know that with that, you've got to earn it. You know what I mean? And so, I felt like this was kind of a big job, but it's this love affair that happens between the two of them. And essentially, our story is a love story, And it's just this beautiful thing, because it's not a huge, loud, flashy love story, but it's really real and it's really grounded. Like it happens in life. You're at work one day and then suddenly something shifts and you see this person a different way, and it's these little quiet gestures you do for each other and these glances and stuff like that. It's really beautiful. And Julieth Restrepo, who's an amazing actress and such a kind, awesome, and all heart individual as well. I don't know. It was easy with her. You've got when everything's in place like that, it's super easy. When the writing is good and the directors kind of trust everybody trusts each other to do their jobs, because everybody, is capable, and and the actors are great. It's just, it's like it's a setup for awesomeness,
Definitely. I love it when they pan down and we see a little something. It's just so beautiful. And I hope we get Netflix, please give us another season of The Residence, whatever you do with it. I know it's based off of a book and all of that, but I would love more. I'm sure you would as well, right? The writing is phenomenal.
Hey, man, I'm sure they're taking note of, look, everybody takes note of numbers, and we were, number 1 on the charts for, I think almost a month and a half in a row, 2 billion over 2 billion views, which blows my mind, like billion with a B. So let me tell you, I'm sure, I don't know what's going on, but I guarantee you there are talks about
I love it. Well done, Mel. Again, you're one of my faves. As a character actor, just killing it. Can't wait to see what you're going to do next. But just bravo and all the flowers for your work on The Residence and all your work again. Because like I said, I love you, man. You're awesome. And I connected with you really honestly from my soul with your story, your personal story, your journey in this game. Hopefully I can be like you one day and killing it just as much.
Man, don't stop it, don't die.
Definitely. Everybody, the amazing Mel Rodriguez is in The Residence streaming right now on Netflix. Go check it out. It's so dope. I'm Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, there's a cut. Thank you, guys. Mel.
Nerds rule the world.
Pleasure chatting with you. Love to all my nerds who rule the world.
Yeah. Nerds rule the world.
Yes, we do.
Thanks. Nerds rule the world. Thank you.
I love the nerds ruling the world, so more power to you.
Patrick, what up, man? And yes, they do. Nerds rule the world, kid.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Awesome. Kuya P, Nerds Rule the World. Hello.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Oh,
Nerds rule the world.
I got. It's in the title of your show, like Nerds rule the world. Like, I want more black weirdos on screen, and I don't feel like we ever get to see that very much.
Thank you so much. Nerds do rule the world.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Nerds rule.
Love it.
Hello, Sarah. Hello, Julian.
Yes, nerds. Yes.
Rock on. I love it. Thank you so much.
It's good to see you. I love Nerds Rule the World.
But yeah, there's a heavy nerd component, man.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you ask me, nerds rule the world. So
Absolutely.
And you're right. Nerds do rule the world.
We're just the best.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies.
Nerds so much.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
It's your boy Kuya P. Nerds Rule the World. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you.
Do. They rule the world all right.
Yes. Take care, Tony. Thank you, guys.
Good to see you.
A pleasure to see you. Thank you so much. Awesome. So yeah, I'm recording. I'm good. So
Sweet.
Thank you, Samara. I'm ready to kick it off. If Mel's ready and we're all ready,
It's rock and roll, bro.
let's have some fun. Awesome. I'm gonna do a 3, 2, 1 real quick to help me with my edit because I'm putting the trailer right in front, and we'll dive right in, Mel. And again, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, bro.
Awesome. All right, here we go. We're rocking. In a 1, 2, 3.